So I'm going to get a MacBook Pro. Will it support this? I'm probably an older one.
Yeah? How old is your older MacBook Pro?
Probably the last generation.
I have a 2015 that I cut on. It's got the 2 gig video card in it, so the AMD 295, I think. And I have 16
i7
16 gigs of RAM. It's got the quad core i7.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Retina 15 is the one I have.
Retina 15.
It pushes 1080 around all day long on that. You know, I wouldn't say 4K, but that's also one of the beauties of Resolve, and you probably might be aware of that, is that it's resolution independent.
So this can do 4K?
Sure.
And
8K. This can do 16K, in fact. I mean, if you're talking about the studio version, we'll let you do full 16K DCI, so that's 16,384.
What do you need, a trash can, 12 core?
Oh, you'd need a lot more than that, I believe. You know, push 16K frames around, but
you need limits.
Because you could do 16,384 by 16,384 square at 120 frames a second. We'll let you create a frame that size if you want to. And of course, as soon as we did that, we had customers that said, well, can I do 32K? So, maybe in 6 months you can do 32K. You know, never know. Yes.
So that kind of. Okay, so if I had 4K or 8K footage, but I want to cut in a proxy, you know, typically with Avid, it's a whole thing. You know, you transcode and then you link back to things, and But since I'm easily able to tab between edit and color, if I want to color the 4K footage, but I want to edit in the low res.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways to make that happen for you. I'll show you one that's very similar to that workflow, right? And then one that's much, much simpler than that. So, with some parameters in Fusion. There's my project setting, and I'm looking at 2K DCI scope, right? So, if I chose to switch this to 4K DCI scope 239 and save, well, now everything is calculating at 4K. It doesn't matter what size my footage is. So if you wanted to put your 4K footage directly into a timeline, then force it to cut at 1080, we'll handle the scaling for you. So you won't actually need external proxies. So that's one that's incredibly easy. 2, you want external proxies. You can always do that because relinking is incredibly simple here. You would either generate external proxies, you'd use the deliver page to generate external proxies, or you'd put all your media in and use the file media management function, and then choose to transcode to a resolution and a format, and just transcode all media, or just transcode only used media, or only used media with, you know, handles, right? So that's another way, okay? And yet another way is to come into the media pool and define this bin of your footage that's all your 4K or 6K footage, and select all, right click on it, and say generate optimized media. Now open the project settings real quick so I can show you where that is, because if you look, then we actually give you, here I went to the wrong place. We give you a selection for your optimized media and your render cache formats. Someone asked as he was leaving the last session, you know, what happens if I need to work in you know, high dynamic range, or I need to keep full range on my color page edits and color page grades, but I want to work in a proxy. Well, then you define the proxy that's capable of handling the full range. So I suggested instead of 422HQ that he works with 4x4, because 422HQ can be forced into full range, or it can be full range media, but by default we're going to assume it's probably video range. So then we're going to look at it in a different light, right? But we're always going to flag 4x4 media as full range. So if you're working with RAW, you're always going to get the full range as well that way. And that kind of speaks to the data path of Resolve. We work in 32-bit floating point. So let's try and distill that as quickly as I can. You think in terms of files, and they're red, green, blue, and alpha potential, right? So there's 4 possible channels in this file, right? And there's more in a multi-party XR, right? But so let's just say RGBA, right? We refer to it as YRGB, so we split it up automatically into luminance, then our red, green, and blue. That's part of our color science. We expose to a 32-bit per channel path for each of those. So 8-bit per channel, you'd get banding. 10-bit per channel is what you see in our default scopes, right? They count 0 to 1023 levels, as opposed to 0 to 256 levels, or 0 to 255. So the difference between 8-bit, 256 levels, 10-bit, 1023, and then you can imagine, we can go to a full 32-bit float path. That's essentially saying that we're going to expose to the full data path available inside this container, hold that data path in our processing pipeline, and then you apply your correction to it at any point. And when we define your deliverable, that's when we apply the transform and the compression down to whatever resolution you need to deliver. So in your case, you would be able to work with the full video range, even if you're working with, say, proxy format, or if you're working in the format that I was mentioning where you cut your 4K in, but work in 1080. And then the other thing is, if you created optimized media, you just want to make sure you choose a format that will maintain that range. So with this selection, you can see that 4:2 is what it's sitting on right now, but if you needed to keep the range available for, say, HDR deliverables or HDR grades, then you would pick one of these formats that allows you to maintain that range. In addition to that, you can also change your resolution. And say you did that and you defined all that, and now we've got optimized media that's low res, quarter res, and 4x4, so it keeps your range, right? You go to the playback menu. That checkbox at the top says use optimized media if available. So that gets you the speed of using the optimized media that exists in that cache location that you've defined. But if you need to switch into color and see absolute perfect, I want to make sure my client is sitting here and he wants to see exactly the file that is on disk, the source file. Absolute integrity of the source file, you turn off optimized media and you'll just see that. It'll just turn it right back on, show you the source, pipe you exactly the source in your color viewer.
So it's either going to point to the proxies on a different drive, or it's going to point.
It's going to point to wherever that cache is located. It's going to point to your original source, and it's just a toggle on and off. So optimized media is pretty flexible for that. If you did need to make optimized media, for your workflow, go ahead, Sean.
Just a quick question. If I'm using optimized media and I use the command in my timeline, reveal file in media pool.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to show me?
Yeah, it'll show you the source. Yeah.
It's going to always go back to the source, even though I'm looking at optimized media when I play.
Yep.
Okay.
Because it's hidden optimized media.
Okay.
We've created it, and we're going to reference it, and we're going to let you use it because it's going to help you with speed. But it's internal.
Just in the cache.
It's completely internal.
Folder,
yeah.
still match back to
exactly. So there's no conform, right?
Okay.
You just turn optimized media off, and you're at full resolution for your conform, and then you turn your timeline resolution up to your deliverable resolution, and you render it out. Or if you're working in a round trip, and a lot of people do, they need to go back to some other format to conform. Maybe they came from Avid, and then they got the Avid cuts, and now they're gonna create the grade, and then the round trip process has a checkbox. So if we're on the deliver page, and this is your workflow, if it is, you can choose individual clips. And by choosing individual clips, you can tell it that you want to render at its source resolution. So it doesn't matter. So even if I'm working in 1080 now, and I'm working in 1080 on this grade, but I know I got to send the original resolution back, then you just tick that box, send out your clips with your grades baked in at its original source, and then those just get relinked again wherever they go. If it's Avid, if it's FTP, if it's Premiere, if it's Smoke or whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah, so that's pretty slick, and that bypasses like the traditional render a proxy version, but you can also do that, right? I mean, this feature that I was consulting with, we went with 4x4 media, and they just shot anamorphic 2:1 in 4x4, so it was like a 3K frame or something, and the editor had no trouble, playing 4x4 around and tossing it around, even in the multicam, because he's looking at 4 angles at once. We'll let you look at 16 if you want, 16 angles. If you're doing, I guess like Mark was in here, right, earlier in the last session. If you're doing Project Runway, then you probably need 16 angles at least.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a situation like that, you have 10 editors working and limited amount of storage.
Yeah. So clearly, they're only going to be working DNX 36 or 115 or whatever they have on that. You know. Yeah.
Lower than 36.
Lower than 36.
Yeah.
Yeah. Create some tiny little thumbnail proxies for that work. Like, I can't tell what angle that is. Is that? Yeah, I can't see it. Too low resolution.
Do they shoot that on Lure? What do they shoot that Project Runway on?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's probably just
Yeah.
1080p.
Yeah.
But a lot
Well,
of
are
those
they Blackmagic?
No, they're not.
Worship-
No,
worship
but
camera?
I was just. I know Mark works at Buena Murray, and they do a lot of reality TV. So
Yeah.
just talked to him a few times about this. But I can go into a bunch of other stuff now. Is there anything specific that you people want to see, so I can kind of direct it that way?
I have a question.
Yes.
Kind of related to this.
Yes.
I understand you're having like this over at Blackmagic monthly meetings or demos or something,
you know what?
open house or something like that.
The schedule hasn't been defined that I know of yet, but that's something that we have. We have a new facility. It's kind of like a suite. It's preset. We've got a green cyc. We got a Resolve station. We got some cameras on sticks, and we got some. We got the Ultimat hardware for the green cyc, right? So we can show you the Ultimat 12, real time. We've got some ATEMs. We've got some mixers. We've got some stuff, so we can kind of show a technology preview of every aspect of Blackmagic in that one suite. And we will be doing some events, and it's just 10 minutes down the street from
How
here.
can I get on that mailing list?
So, you're probably already on that mailing list. Do you get an email from Grant every now and then, right, from Blackmagic?
Yeah.
Yeah, then that'll be the same one. We'll blast it to that email address.
Cool.
So.
You guys in Burbank?
Yeah.
Right over the bridge.
Yeah, right next to the Cartoon Network building.
Oh.
So the
awesome.
333 building. It's
Sure.
yeah, at the corner of Glen Oaks and Magnolia.
Awesome. I'd like to see Fusion.
Yeah, sweet.
At least the titles.
All right.
If nothing else.
Yeah, you know what? I neglected to show the titles in the last session, so.
Or whatever's cool.
No,
I don't
you know what?
Whatever the
Titles are
tricks
cool enough because for an editor who maybe doesn't even want to see Fusion, they probably want to know about the titles, right? So
I think
here,
that'd be
let's do that.
I used to have Fusion
So
What else did you
let me close. Yeah, Ion's Digital Fusion. Yeah. So Steve Roberts, the guy who wrote that, is still with us, making new stuff and helping to integrate this into Resolve.
Wow.
Effects library. I'm going to close the media pool for the effects library right now, and I could obviously have more than that open if I had a large enough screen. So. And I'd also have the ability to go dual screen. And in dual screen mode, I have full screen timeline, which I really like. So I could have one screen that's got all the other stuff, and one screen that's just timeline, tracks top to bottom. So here we are, and our title generator was lacking, right, in the past.
Sure.
So here's the normal text, right? And the normal options that we have.
Is that it?
5 minutes. All right, cool. And all the tools are available in the inspector. So just like every other clip that we select, tools are available up here. And let me go ahead and close my little mixer. I don't need it right now. And take that full height. So some of the normal transformation tools are performed this way. And the text generator was, that's basically all we had, right? It's this section right here. Well, that no more. I mean, of course, you could still use that if you want, but now we have the Fusion text generator. It's called Text Plus, and if I click it, you'll see, yes, we have the text side of things. Plus, we have some spacing controls, some advanced controls, and for kerning. Plus, we have the layout, the rotation, the background, transform, rotation, shear size. We have shading. So if that title now needed to be, like this, that's fine. Plus, I can change the resolution, which clearly, I'm at 19% because I pushed it into 4K, didn't I? So things might be a little slower here. Watch, let's fix that. I'm going back to 2K scope, just to save the processing power. Yeah. Right? So it handled the scale for me automatically. It says instead of 19%, it says 37% up here in my viewer. So yes, that text plus now, and by being in playback render cache user, you'll see that it's identified the Fusion area stuff that needs to cache. So that just went from red to blue and cached in my edit timeline because I'm on user mode. All the other options that are available to me, including in Fusion, the versioning. So if I needed to make several different versions of this, say because this one's open sans and then the, you know, hollow open sans, and then this one's going to be you know, Optima, and then the third one is going to be something ridiculous like Helvetica. Yeah, and change the color and yeah, fine. So this gives me the option of just easily, you know, quickly tabbing between them and finding the look that I want. So create 6 of them in every one of these tools. Now that's just the Text Plus tool, right? You can customize to your heart's intent. Now watch, if I move into Fusion, that's just a node, and I can completely customize it inside Fusion, so I have full transparency to Fusion. It's not like I created something in Edit and now it's locked to the Edit page. It's now in Fusion, and in fact, if I move back, I'll show you the even cooler text tools, which are some of the presets that we've built. Fusion titles. So we've given you just a few to start with. And again, as I mentioned, you can completely customize these. So if this is the lower third style that I want, right? Force that thing to cache. Watch here. Oh, I didn't put the audio pods down. I just did one, not the main. Thank you. Yay. I can shut it up too. So there it is, corporate corners, right? Something silly, but it's elegant and it's pre-built for you, and it's completely customizable. There's your text style, there's your options, there's your versions again, and again, like I said, we move into Fusion, and that template can be completely customized here. Plus, I can attach it to something. So let me show you a real workflow from the Fusion examples here. So yes, we can go into the color page. Yes, we can pull these green screens pretty simply in Resolve. We've always had that capability, but if you want to use the Delta key that's built into Fusion, it's really clean and really fast. So I've currently I'm looking down at, you know, the shot, right? There's 2 shots stacked. If I move into Fusion now, the only thing Fusion's going to take is the topmost clip. So I could generate the Delta key and view that, grab my background color, switch into the matte range, change the threshold so that I fix that matte a little bit, right? Switch back into the final result. Move back to the edit page. I've already created my composite, right? Now I didn't have to do anything else inside the edit page. Now let me just go back and do it a different way, okay? So if I go back and say Fusion and pop into Fusion, let's get rid of this Delta key here and just start over, right? So here it is. I want both of these shots to be in my Fusion comp. I've selected both of these shots. If I right click on that and choose that they're now a new Fusion clip, I've made essentially a container, a wrapper for these two. If I show you what that means, by right clicking I can open it in its own timeline. And there it is. There's my timeline with the clips, because maybe, you know, maybe I need to see that right now, and I'll show you why that's important right after this. Double click there to get back. There's my Fusion container. Move into Fusion. It's now created the merge for me automatically. I selected these 2 layers and it said, great, you want to merge them. So I've already connected the merge, so you know how that works. You didn't have to do it yourself. So let's look at my media. I'm going to pull the same key, Delta, there it is, and then pick my background color, and let's fix the matte. Switch back to result. Okay, so there's my matte, right? I'm looking at the merge. The result is this media out. This is what's feeding back to Resolve. Now, that was great, right? You saw me do that already. Well, now I have a container file. So what happens if they say, you know, we need that planet to look like we're on Mars or orbiting Mars instead? So let's open it in its timeline. We can see the constituent parts. And here they are. Here's my parts. So let's move from the timeline, right, this nested container, into the color page. And we still have access to the underlying parts. So let's turn off the overlay. and just take the blues.
How'd you turn off the overlay?
Oh, this is a
Oh, no.
mix, right?
Oh,
So that'll
okay.
show you if you've got an underlying shot that'll hide it. So shift click to expand the range, right click to get rid of the other pieces you don't want. And I'm just using hue versus hue, so I've selected the blue range and expanded the range of my blues, and I'm going to rotate it around the hue wheel. So there it is. And then if I move back to the edit page, you'll see that there's my container. Double click, I come back in to the result.
You went spacewalking. I accessed it 2 hours ago.
Right? So now we're outside the red class. So yes, you can completely color and customize everything inside the container, even of the merged layers. Plus, inside Fusion, with that merge, I can add new media. You know, that's not the planet shot I want. You know, let's find something else that's going on in there. Like maybe this explosion is really what I want. So let's just bring that clip in here too. Let's say, you know, this clip, that's not the one. Let's pipe this in. And move back.
Does that change it in the container?
Yeah.
So that explosion clip is now
Yeah. I mean, it changes it in the container inside of Fusion.
Fusion, but it doesn't
Yeah.
change the clip.
Like if you show us the same timeline.
So
Yeah.
I've still created the container with the two originating
Oh,
clips
got it.
inside of it. But yeah, as far as Fusion's concerned, I still have full media I/O on any of these. There's the container, go into Fusion, now I'm looking at the whole container and its contents. Otherwise, outside that, I'm looking at a top-level clip, just the result of the sum of what's in the timeline. So you got multiple ways of doing it.
So if you went back and said, hey, let's look at the timeline again, it's only those two clips, so what if you wanted to color that explosion?
This explosion.
Yeah.
So you'd have to recreate your container in this example, or you just come in here and say, yeah, let's just add a color corrector node, and
Oh.
you know.
So it'd probably be better to do it in the edit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that you can do it here, that's cool.
Yeah. But I would say that since our tools are color grade tools, let's use the color grade tools that
Right.
we have in Resolve, and you know, recreate your comp or your container.
And you can do more than two in the Fusion.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, split screens and tracking, which we do
All the time.
all the time
Yeah.
and nowadays.
Alright, so let's find something to track.
She died in the rain of wreckage.
Let's turn that off.
And
Let's get rid of that. I made an awful edit, but I did that so I could trim this up real fast. So now I'm just caching this, right? So if I wanted to track a feature, I'm going to add a tracker.
Doing the raffle in 2 minutes.
All right, cool. And let's track, let's find the pattern that I
Which
wanna
means you
track.
have to come to the front.
Yes, you're going to have to
So
be
Sean
out
will
of this
continue his
room.
demo to an empty room.
I'm going to demo myself here. Yeah. I still picked too long of the clip, didn't I? Yes, I am sure I want to stop because he moves everywhere.
Yeah.
Right, so there it is. It's tracking the feature. It lost him there because he turned too far, but yes, this is what you would do. You would track that feature. If you needed to, you could choose your operator and then corner position, match move, perspective, or you could do unsteady position, essentially. You could say, I just want, I want to hold that position and use the tracker data to stabilize, or just use the stabilizer function inside Resolve too. And then power windows in color page. Oh, you're welcome. And the polygons. Yeah, go ahead. You got to win something. I'll talk forever.